I definitely picked up a lot of messages around money being shameful.
Miranda is a marketing and motivational powerhouse.
I really had a big slap in the face about just how valuable I was.
She's co-owner of Skin Viva, one of UK's top aesthetic clinics. She's also co-hosting UK's #1 aesthetic podcast.
Clients often don't want to spend the bigger numbers that they need to in order to actually get the real results.
She works with thousands of clinicians and helps them to successfully grow their business.
Money to me has changed drastically over the years. You have priced yourself, and that is a boundary.
If you are an aesthetic injector, a nurse, a doctor, a dentist, or clinic owner, please sit back and relax. But remember, like every treatment, this podcast comes with a risk. You may end up becoming very successful. So today we are going to be delving into money mindset and how small business owners can stop self-sabotaging success and start profiting from their hard work.
Thank you so much, Felix. What an honor to be talking about money with you.
Absolutely. Likewise, Miranda. So let me start like this. What is money to you?
Money to me has changed drastically over the years. And I think growing up, my parents, we didn't particularly want for money. You know, my parents are teachers, so we weren't on the breadline or anything. But I definitely picked up a lot of messages around money being shameful and money, profit particularly, being shameful. I think it's quite a British thing to not talk about money at all. And it's so interesting, you know, when
Swiss as well.
And just talking to you just now, where I said, what an honor to be talking about money with you now. Even then, I felt slightly triggered, but I pushed through that. And so because I came into business with those kinds of mindsets, of course, they manifested in business and made me less successful, frankly, at first. And I have come to the point now where I've done such a 180 turnaround in my money mindset that I'm incredibly passionate about passing that on to others. And I think anyone listening to this podcast now who knows deep down in their guts that their business suffers because they themselves have issues like I used to, thinking that they will, that people will judge them if they're money grabbing, or thinking that profit is dirty. Any of these thoughts that come up for you, they will be being manifested in your business. So for me, I've overcome a lot of it, and now I have a very successful business.
That's very interesting. Exactly today, I had experience like this. I started off changing my Instagram to more business content. We talked already about that when I visited you in UK. I started that since last year, roughly, when we had this inner circle and we saw the demand for business needs. And I arrived back today from some filming and my Tokyo trip, and my CFO came into my room just an hour ago and said, Felix, I have to tell you something. There are some patients coming to me and also some employees telling me that it's weird. Felix has changed his Instagram and it's all about business now. And we thought he's a doctor and doctors should be ethical. And, and that's weird. And I said, listen, we have to wake up. And not only healthcare, but also aesthetics. It's okay if it's profitable. I'm sorry, what is wrong with that? And it's not being greedy or ripping people off or whatever. And I think the healthcare community really, healthcare is even worse than aesthetics, probably have to stop thinking that way.
Oh, absolutely. And I would go further than that, because profit, I have learned later on, is like blood coursing through a body. If you don't have the blood going through the body, then it can't supply the heart and it can't supply the brain, and you won't be able to reinvest in your business, number one. You won't be able to be motivated by your business, because this is skipping right to the end of the problem with that by the way, I think your CFO and your colleagues, like, and your patients, it's really understandable that they are worried about you appearing to change. But what they aren't realizing is that the profit is supplying the vital organs, and that if you yourself only were running your business as a charity, then it would not be as successful, and you would be able
Absolutely.
to do less of those good things in the world. Like, why are you going on a Tokyo trip? Why? Because you have a level of investment that you can make and success that spreads your message and your goodness. We need to spread, because there are far too many terrible people out there who don't have amazing ethics like you. I want you having the big business so that you can be looking after those patients.
No, and that's true. And we both know if you run a business, the profit goes back into the business for many, many years. It's still happening here. I'm not allowed to take out profit. It's all going back to the business. We invested, we built new clinics, as you know. So that's what people have to realize. And being an entrepreneur is also very risky. I'm going through sleepless nights sometimes. I'm worried. I have to talk to people. I have to negotiate with banks. So I mean, honestly, if you have gone through that for many years, and it's a really tough and hard and sometimes ugly game, it's totally okay to come to that point where you have some kind of success and grow and have a good business. That's what the world makes moving, right? And we need it.
If we, again, I would go even further. If people listening to this now have a small business, and your business is big for our industry, mine is sort of medium size. But even if people listening to this here are just single-handed practitioners, I promise you, if you do not pay yourself adequately in a way that allows you to at least begin and manifest your dreams, whether you want to take your kids to Disneyland or you want to work one fewer day a week, so you want to work one less day a week, whatever your dreams look like for you, if you can't see a path to getting there, then guess what? You're going to get burned out. You're going to start resenting your patients. You are going to start thinking, what's the point? And you will just think about stress, the kind of stress that you've been used to dealing with in the National Health Service or whatever your original job was. But it's not, stress comes from not feeling fulfilled. And I know, Felix, you are super purpose driven. So you have this. It's absolutely not just about money. In fact, money is not the number one thing for you. But I think that even you and me, even if we were completely feeling like we were giving to the world, but then we weren't receiving something back monetarily, that is a road to burnout. So you are doing your business and everyone in it a favor by looking after your money mindset.
Thank you so much. So today we want to talk about the small business owners, right? As there are many out there, probably the majority of our listeners are having small business and want to improve and want to get insights from us. So let's start with them. And what are they lacking from, in your opinion? What is missing that they are self-sabotaging themselves and not getting their profit for their hard work?
So I think this, and I'll speak from a personal perspective, what the kinds of things that I used to do were I would, for example, do what I call discount Tourette's. Do you know what I mean by Tourette's? Tourette's is a clinical problem where people just shout things. They'll just be,
or have these tics.
Oh, exactly. They'll be on a train just shouting something. And I think that a lot of small business owners, me included, we will have, for example, a patient in front of us, and that patient, you do not know what's going on in their mind. They might be perfectly willing to pay full price to have a big treatment, and suddenly, for some unknown reason, you find yourself saying, oh, I'll give you $50 off, or, oh, here's an extra syringe for free. And we hate ourselves in the moment for it, but we do it. And I believe that it's because, going back to that childhood messaging, that we fear the consequences of just staying silent and offering them full price or whatever the circumstances might be. Another really example that people tell me about all the time is mates rates, whereby you can give your friend at the beginning of your business, you're giving the treatment to them at cost. And then you wake up 3 years later and you're still doing the same thing and you're starting to resent them. You know that it's not right for you and your business, but you carry on. Why do we do that? And I think it all comes back to our fear of rejection. We fear that when we say, that will be whatever it is, $1,000, please, that the person will go, oh, you're a bit money grabbing, or, oh, no. We have all these fears, and different people will make that mean different things, but that's the reason it happens. And it's so damaging.
And to be very honest here, Miranda, I have the same problem. I'm far too often just too generous and do the same. And it's well described by you. So if it starts getting silent after you name the price, you immediately start to go down with it. So, but let me know, what is the trick? How do you solve that problem? How do you get out of this spiral? Also with your friends, I exactly know this thing as well. They get at it a cost, and that goes on for years. And at one certain point, you have to say, listen, I have to rise it a little bit or whatever, or come to full price. However, what is your strategy here, concretely?
So the first thing I would do is do an audit of your uncomfortable thoughts around money, because it will be different for everyone. Maybe in your childhood, your parents said money doesn't grow on trees. Or maybe, your school friend said something to you when you first started your business, like, oh, getting a bit big for your boots, are you? Or whatever. So over the next week, anyone who's listening to this now, start a journal or get a piece of paper, whatever, a post-it notes. And anytime you have an uncomfortable thought around money, write it down. Do it without judgment. This is just an audit. We just want to check in with ourselves. Write them all down, put them on a post-it note up on your wall. It'll mostly be when you're by yourself. So it'll be, you'll get an inquiry from someone on Instagram and they ask you how much for 3 areas of Botox, and you tell them, and then you never hear from them again. And you make that mean that you are too expensive for your local area. Whatever that is, when it's a disempowering thought, write it down. And then after a while, when you've gathered about 10 thoughts, I would start and challenge those thoughts just a little bit. We're not trying to become billionaires anytime soon. We're just gently trying to loosen up those patterns of behavior. So I would start what I'm calling, what would your best self do? Literally write down. You do not have to do it. Okay. So let's say that your mate has asked you for, oh, hiya, just want to book in for my next treatment. And you're thinking, oh no, I don't want to do this at cost. Write down the disempowering thought, the feelings around it, and then just say to yourself, I would like to say no. Write that down. Honestly, you don't have to do it. Just give yourself that bit of breathing space first. But get to the point where you've got a big list of problems and then a big list of solutions. And then one more thing I would do, Felix, that's really going to help and loosen up your money mindset is I would start and write a reasons I'm worth it journal. Reasons I'm worth it. Because can I share a story about my own personal
Sure, go for it.
So for me, I'd been in business for, unfortunately, a long period of time, many years. And I was doing all of these kinds of, behaviors, resisting taking deposits, giving people free syringes, all the things. And what happened to me, and it happened in an arena actually of marketing. So I became awesome at marketing. It was a particular skill set that I had. That's particular to me. It won't be for everyone listening here now. But I really had a big slap in the face about just how valuable I was. But here's what led up to it before I made this discovery. Every day for about 3 years, I said to myself on my morning walk, Miranda, I honor you for. And I honored myself for something that had gone well. In other words, I was filling myself up, because here's the truth, you guys. People listening to this here now, you are worth it. You are worth those prices, but you just don't know it. And that's why we need to, as well as auditing our fears, we also need to start and fill ourselves up and notice when people compliment us. And not just let it just go over our head. Oh, they're just saying that. Oh, no, I disagree. No, note that stuff down. Do you ever, I'd be interested in your thoughts around that. You are very self-effacing. You are not a big ego. Do you ever just stop and think, yeah, I'm good at that?
Yes, I loved when you said you do this morning walk and honor yourself for something what you did. That's what I'm doing in the evening. I try to be satisfied in the evening. I try to balance my things back, and always when I have this kind of doubts and things are going wrong, and as you said, compliments are going like this, but ever critics is really painful. I put it into perspective, and that's one thing I have. I always think of others who might suffer more or are in different positions, and I try to have a neutral view on my life, and then it's easily getting better because I know I'm lucky, I'm healthy, I have food every day, I have my dogs and all this. So I do some kind of the same thing. Instead of morning, I do it in the evening. And I strongly can recommend that. Really treat yourself nicely at one point in the day. But Miranda, quickly, let me come back to this. Let us double down this strategy, which is very great. You write it down, you make these notes, and you have this other side of notes where you write down why you're worth it. But how do you implement this strategy in your working day? Because you said, you even don't have to do it. You just write it down. But at a certain stage, you should do it because otherwise it's just...
Yeah. So let me give you a couple of practical tips for the moment when you're with the patient and either you yourself start on discount or whatever, or they ask you for a discount, or they do a sharp intake of breath, or whatever it might be. Then a couple of practical things you could do. Number one, I would say silence is your friend. Because, as you said, we want to fill the silence after we've told them the price, and then we worry that their silence, what we load meaning onto their silence. And actually, the truth of the situation is you have priced yourself. And that is a boundary. That is, if you always allow your boundaries to be eroded, then you are not a fully formed human being. You are just a pile of mush who is willing to be augmented and changed by however the winds are flowing and whoever you are with. And that's not true. We have more boundaries than that, but just in this one area of vulnerability where we feel we will be judged, we are allowing ourselves to be that mush. So you need to just stay silent, say your piece, and then stay silent. And I would also say, just before you have said the price, make sure that you do it with gravitas. Because what that's going to do is, if you feel strong in yourself, and the way that you can do that is you can just very subtly, when you're with a patient, just put your shoulders back. Just slightly put your shoulders up, slight head tilt. Nothing weird, don't be like that. But just slightly put your shoulders back. Say the price, go down at the end of your sentence. So that will be £500 instead of £500. It's so. But if you are telling yourself with your body, with your physiology, that you are in command, that will mean that it'll come across with certainty. And Tony Robbins has this great phrase. He says that if two people are in rapport, so you and I are in rapport, we're friends. We've spoken like this before. The person who is the most certain will win. Now, I don't particularly like that word win because it makes it sound like it's a battle, but you get the picture. If you are certain in yourself, they will pick that up and they are so much more likely to go with the price. Then stay silent, because think about this. You are filling in loads of meaning that might not be there. They might just be thinking, Tim, my husband, Dr. Tim Pearce, who I'm sure many of you know him, he's an introvert. So if I ask him a question, he thinks. He doesn't immediately come back with a response. I allow him space to think. So that's going to really help you. Silence is your friend.
Now, I'm the patient in this moment. I say, Mrs. Pearce, 500 is too much for me. I have a budget of only 300.
Okay. So can I ask you a question to Felix, just between me and you? Do you have at your disposal other options? Like, could you, in this scenario, give her a smaller treatment? Also, could you maybe spread the cost, or let me know?
That's what I often do, because in reality, it's hard to say, okay, no, I only can do it for 500. I often then say, okay, well, let's do one syringe today, but save save some more and come back in 2 weeks' time or whatever they decide. If I have the feeling it does not make sense because this one syringe will not help anywhere, I might stop it. But we all know in business, especially if you have a single business, it's tough, right? You have saved half an hour for this patient or whatever, and now it's ending up like being zero. But it's both. It's good to have a clear strategy, because over time, I would believe you will only get the right patients. But on the other side, understand these people who then decide for a smaller treatment or for other options, because they all have to pay their bills, right?
Yeah. So I think the answer to that question, I would take from something that Tim always says about consultation, which is that before you've got to the point of the money conversation, hopefully you guys have established a combined goal. Like, what is she really trying to achieve? Because you might be consulting a 50 or 70-year-old patient who really needs, a lot doing. But if her goal is to feel sexy on a date night with her husband, then you could then shrink it back to just doing her lips. And am I right in saying that older women can get an amazing result just from defining the border, maybe doing a little bit in the upper lip lines? But you've got to come back to that goal. If her goal, simply speaking, her goal is to look 30 years younger, then you're not going to be able to achieve it. And even though you set that 30 minutes aside, unfortunately, you have lost it. And all you can do is go away and, I think, make her feel empowered in that decision, because then what you might find is that 70-year-old patient will go and refer her daughter to you because then she loves the way that you roll. So I think, but crucially though, Felix, you need to feel strong at the end of that consultation, because if you feel weak, then now this will start and translate into all areas of your business. You will start and think, oh God, well, my price is too much, or, oh no, maybe I'm a bad person, and it will permeate through. So if you feel that you've done everything in your right conscience, then you should be proud of yourself.
No, I agree. Here's what I do. And luckily today, I don't have these problems that much anymore, because I only have 1 week, 1 day per week where I'm working. And over the 20 past years, I have retaining patients. So I exactly know who's coming in, and I know it's the right patients for me. But what I sometimes do with new patients, I think that's very powerful. And that's linking back to what you said. I give them a mirror, because many of them, they came in and say, listen, I'm looking so sad, I'm looking so tired, I'm looking invisible, whatever, but they don't really know what the problem is. So I give them the mirror and I explain the signs of aging step by step, going from the forehead down to tear trough and nasolabial fold, whatever. Explain what makes you look what is happening in your face. And that's very, very powerful. And most they say, oh gosh, that's amazing. Let me know what it needs to be fixed, and then it's from there mostly an easy game.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that way you're giving them a gift anyway. I think so much of the way we see ourselves as business owners is we really worry that we are deep down bad people who are trying to screw other people up for money. And the truth is, in that moment where you consulted her again and just reminded her, you've given her a gift, she's empowered now. She knows more about her face. And I think all we can do is remind ourselves that we are in service, and that will make ourselves feel better about the money when we do receive it.
Yeah, 100% agree. And, I think that's one of the really powerful secrets of our business, these connections to our patients. If you get that right, you will have a friend and a patient forever. And as said, word of mouth, they will bring their aunties and friends and mothers and daughters, and often they're there to add two people, so they're coming with a friend. That's even more powerful, because if you go through the examination with a mirror, her friends 100% wants to say
exactly.
That's very powerful.
I want to just add as well, never assume, don't be as arrogant as to think that you know what's going on in her mind. Yesterday, I had a really interesting buying experience. So we went to a big mall in Manchester, and we went into, do you know Dyson, the brand Dyson.
Yeah.
We went into the Dyson
hairdryer.
shop. But they have the Hoovers and they have the vacuum and everything. And I have been on TikTok myself as a consumer for months now. I've been looking at these air wraps where you put your hair around it, it makes it curly. And I went into the Dyson shop and I had a bit of a play with this air wrap. And I walked away from that shop feeling all sorts of continued like limiting beliefs myself. I'm not very good at hair. Oh, who am I kidding that I think I'm fashionable? I'm 41, like I shouldn't be doing, all these ridiculous thoughts, which you would think are ridiculous, but I do have the money to buy an air wrap. And so we went to the cinema later and I sat in the cinema watching this kids movie and I went on my phone and I bought a thing for my hair. And when I was in the shop though, the guy didn't know anything about me and he didn't ask me anything about me. But if he'd taken the chance to really get to know me, I would have loved to tell him those things, just as I'm telling you now on the podcast. So you in service get to really understand your patients, and there'll come a point where they are no longer challenging you on price because they think, wow, this person is different. They're giving me the whole service.
Yeah, absolutely. But let's help them further. What do you recommend to competition? That's what I often get asked. I would like to keep these prices, etc., pp. But the injector around the corner is giving 20% discount and X, Y, Z. How can you handle? We are very strict here. We don't give discounts. We try to establish us as a luxury brand, and we try to really implement that in all our marketing activities. So I think that's very important. And as you know, Louis Vuitton and Hermes, they never discount. So keep that in mind. But what is our concrete advice to these small business owners in this regards?
So you being a luxury brand, I think even myself, I look up to your amazing luxury brand. And so I think most people watching this here now are probably thinking, well, I'm not luxury, I'm not Louis Vuitton or whatever. But what I would say to them is that they are still completely unique. And so you're doing luxury marketing, but when they are marketing, they themselves are their greatest marketing asset. Because think about this. So basically, my answer is, to cut a long story short, is market yourself. Get a personal brand. Because let's say that I'm speaking to Jane the injector now. Let's say that Donna is watching Jane on social media. Donna is a potential patient. She's been having a bit of a look at Jane for a while. And Jane's been putting out lots of lovely before and afters with great results. She's telling beautiful stories about her patients. She is really letting her whole personality out there. So Donna feels really comfortable with Jane. She's really been stalking her basically for a few months. Donna has the option now. She's in a small town. She could go to Jane, who she trusts emotionally, and she believes that she is competent because she's seen this before and afters. Or she could go to a couple of other practitioners who are dead cheap, but she knows not very much about. Who do you think she's going to go to? Seriously, no matter what financial situation that Donna is in, we all as humans worry. We all think that we have something to lose, whether it be the health of our face, whether it be the fact that we'll come out looking a bit not hurt, but that we will look a bit lopsided or whatever it might be. We all have those fears. And when you make a connection through your marketing, particularly these days, social media marketing, which is so personal, and you can build, I don't know if you come across this term, I came across it just about 2 weeks ago, parasocial relationship. There's a whole Wikipedia page on it. And it's where these days we as consumers are building relationships with, for example, before I met Julie Horn, your business partner, I had a whole relationship with her. I DM'd her a couple of times, but we have not met in real life. And I had an image of who she was. And luckily I'd got the correct image. She's an amazing, incredibly competent, but also a lovely person. I had a relationship with her. And then interestingly, she started following me and built up a relationship with me. And then she invited me to speak at her conference. Do you think that she would have invited anyone to speak at? No, she knew that I was her gal. She knew that I was her vibe. So you've got to put your vibe out there so that you can attract your tribe. It makes you, no one can compete with you when you put yourself out there.
I 100% agree with you. And that's the power everyone has in their self. You know, they can put themselves out, they can be unique, and then they have no competition anywhere. 100% agree. And today it's so easy. I think Subio made a post on that or responded to one of your posts. It's really a powerful tool we have today with Instagram and maybe TikTok. We can put ourselves out there, show our personality, and there's 100% a bunch of people who would love that and will be your customer very soon.
Exactly. And what's amazing about it as well is that it spreads your risk as a business owner. You are literally building an asset. I mean, I think I wouldn't be surprised if there comes a point where we could put our social media on our balance sheet, well, maybe not, because it's not necessarily transferable to anyone else, but you get the picture. It's an asset. It's like building a retirement fund or something, because now when you have a following, you are able to actually, you could monetize that in different ways as well. You might be able to build partnerships. You might be able to get sponsored. There are lots of different ways that you can utilize that brand. But most importantly, it's all about relationships. People imagine, I really want to say this for anyone who's listening here now and has maybe just started their aesthetics business. People imagine that a business means the building. A business means the logo. Absolutely not. Tim has an amazing story where when we were relatively new into business, we built amazing relationships with our customers, with our partners. And one time he was in one of the local places that he was injecting, and he saw that a new, sexy new clinic had started up, and it was all shiny, and oh my goodness, they had a storefront and it was amazing. And he literally thought, well, that's it for us in this town. That's it. His lizard brain just immediately thought the worst. Sure enough, a few months later, gone. Completely gone, because business is not about the storefront. It's not even about the Instagram front. It's about the relationships that come behind that.
Yeah, 100% agree. Miranda, before we go into more business topics, as you are a marketing expert, especially a social media expert, can you give us like 5 tips for small business owners and the ones who are just starting over? Because today it's very crowded on Instagram, even on TikTok, it's very hard. I was trying for 2 weeks now to post 3 times a day on TikTok and just only gained like 9 new followers and stuff like this. So help us with, let's say, 5 tips, 5 hacks.
Okay, keep me on track. I'll do one at a time. So the first thing I would say is consistency. Now, this is not a hack. This is as old as time. But people hate the word consistency because it means that they're going to have to be vulnerable for a long period of time. You, Felix, I've been watching you on TikTok. What is going to happen to you is you will remain at whatever number of followers that you think is small for a period of time. And then the algorithm, after a while, will think, wow, this guy is really investing here. And they will put what they call heat behind it, which is a thing. And you will go viral at some point. And then when you go viral, you will learn the lessons about what works. But also you will get a surge of, confidence and a desire to keep going. And crucially, you will get the followers as well. So but specifically on TikTok, it's all about just staying consistent. So that would be my first tip, such as it's not really a tip, it's just a principle, an important principle. The second thing I would say is to really think about engagement. Engagement is when someone likes or shares or saves or comments on your stuff. So start and think about how you can start conversations. What can you do at the end of your piece of content, whether it be a written post or whether it be a reel, Instagram reel, TikTok, whatever, a video. Think to yourself at the end, what, as they call it in marketing terms, call to action can I put that will start conversation? People want to say stuff. They want to put their opinion across. And that post that you referred to the other day, that Dr. Subio commented on, people were having big, long discussions because they want to put their opinion out there. So think about how you can ignite engagement. The next tip I would give is actually before that, which is how can you get attention, which we call this in the marketing world a hawk. And all it is really is it needs to come very quickly. So in the first 3 seconds of a video, or in the first line of your caption, or maybe on the image that you're doing, really try and put yourself into the mindset of this person who's going to be viewing this, because it's almost like we are egotistical. We kind of come out of the womb very egotistical. We think that, or we forget that people don't care about us, they just want to hear what's in it for them. So a really good hook that you can use is a negative hook. You can, for example, say something like, what I wish I'd known at the beginning of my aesthetics journey, something like that. And, what patients need to hear. It's that kind of thing, so that the patients will think, oh God, it starts their reticular activating system looking out for the negative. We have evolved to look out for negative. So get to the hook, the call to action at the end. And this again, I don't really like the word tip, because this is so fundamental, so incredibly important, is in the middle. I'm not doing these in order. And that would be story. Oh my goodness, the power of stories. If you think about when we were cavemen, we only had one way to learn from each other, and that was through stories. We would sit around
the fireplace and the stories.
We would sit around that campfire and we would hear, our elder talking about something that happened. So you might be thinking, well, what do stories actually mean? It just means share an experience. So instead of saying to your dream customer, oh, Botox doesn't hurt or something like that, tell a story about how your patient found out that Botox didn't really hurt. She was really worried about it and she found out. It doesn't need to be some killer Oscar-winning story. It can simply be an experience that your dream customer can then put themselves in the mindset of. So honestly, I cannot stress that enough. Every time I tell a story, it sets my marketing on fire. Is that 5?
Perfect. Amazing, Miranda. Let's come to business again. And we now talked about patience. We talked about personality, putting ourselves out there, social media. What else do they need to be comfortable in their business? I have the feeling a lot of people struggle. I mean, they like injecting patients, but they struggle with all the rest. Then they have maybe family and kids. How can we handle life, having a successful business and have our private life at the same time?
No, I have thoughts on it and I have some suggestions, but I do just want to acknowledge that I am in a place now where I have, we have a clinic and a training school, a face-to-face, and then we also have an e-learning business. In the e-learning business, for example, we have about 11 staff. So it's not massive, and it's, in terms of staff. And I now do have evenings. But for many years, I didn't have, I worked a lot. And so I don't just want to whitewash this and say, oh yeah, it's all sweetness and light and you're never going to work out of hours. You will clearly be doing a lot of stuff. And actually, I think that's okay. I think we have to be realistic. But what I would my biggest tip, the thing that changed things for me, was I read a book called The E-Myth. I can't remember who it's by, but if you Google it, it's E-Myth Revisited. And he is specifically talking about small businesses and how to systematize them better. Because what I used to struggle with is that I was the heart, I was the soul, I was everything. I felt I was the only one who could do stuff well. And what I've learned by implementing repeatable systems is that other people can absolutely do those things for me. So before anyone dips their toe in the water of maybe employing someone for the first time or, trying to grow in that way, I would say from this book, start and write down really simple procedures of what you do well, and then someone can pick that up and do it for you. Now, that word procedure is not only really boring, but also is a bit overwhelming, I think, for most people. But it's like when you consider McDonald's. Why is McDonald's so incredibly powerful? Because we all know what we're going to get. If you were in Tokyo and you went to McDonald's in Tokyo, it would be pretty much the same thing as in Zurich, because those systems are repeatable. We trust that brand. So we use a piece of software called Trello, but there are lots of different versions of it. It's free. There's Asana, Monday.com. All you have to do is basically write checklists. And those checklists, when you're happy with them, you can hand them off to someone else. And that is your freedom. That's why I can watch Netflix at night now, whereas I couldn't before.
No, amazing. I agree on that, and I think it's very powerful if you start structuring your business and give yourself like some rules. I, for example, like to work with time boxes instead of to-do lists. I try to only answer my emails in the morning and in the evening. I try to not to go too much on the phone and social media. I like to put out content, but I limit myself in watching others' content because it can consume so much time. And then, as you said, find the right people, train them, work with checklists and make sure they get it and do their job. And that's not done by just handling over a handbook or a checklist. It's as a business owner, even as a big business owner in this service business, you have to be present. That's the same for me than for anyone else. The team needs a leader, needs someone to look up, needs someone who is in connection with them. Like we are in connection with our patients, we have to be in connections with our employees. So I think if you respect these 3 or 4 rules, you do well, and it's much more structured than just trying to do everything, hustle from here to there, want to do too much at a time. And I strongly can recommend that, absolutely.
But just to add to that, I really think this all comes back down to mindset, because I don't think in the past I believed I was worthy of having that time off. Because I think when you start, and as I suggested, note down what makes you good, really listen out for when a patient says, wow, I went on a date because you gave me these gorgeous lips, or, oh my goodness, I felt that I could go and ask for a promotion because I just felt, ooh, fresher. Listen out, ask them, ask for feedback, start and build up this picture of your own worthiness. And there will come a point where you realize that actually you need that time off, because if you don't have a rest, then you're good for nothing, because the next day you'll be in a grouch. So that, I think it all comes from that place first, and acknowledging your own worth.
Amazing. My second last question, Miranda. We're living in times of change, right? And I think a lot of people are struggling and are worried about the future and business and finances and money and all this. We probably all do. What do you want to say to these people? What is your advice to handle this?
Do you mean
mindset again?
Recession and all that kind of...
Yeah.
Okay.
Recession, war in Ukraine, inflation, energy prices and all this.
Well, first of all, I would say every time you have a fear thought, which is completely normal. I'm not saying we should live in cloud cuckoo land where we think it's all sweetness and light. It's not all sweetness and light. But every time you have that thought, the next thing that comes is you take fewer actions. You're not going to go out there and put something on social media if you think, what's the point? No one wants Botox anyway. And a really clear example of that is when COVID hit in 2020, I doubled down. Like, I'm doing more and more social media than ever. And there were a few trailblazers like me who were continuing, even though they couldn't treat their patients because of lockdown, they continued to do social media. And guess what? I had a few people that I knew that were absolutely smashed it in 2020 because they were doing prescriptions for skincare, for expensive skincare that did not need a face-to-face. And when they did open up during lockdowns, they were absolutely rammed. And it was those people that had not given into that scarce mindset. They'd carried on regardless.
Thank you so much, Miranda. I think that's great advice and helps a lot. And I agree on that. People freeze because of fear, and that's never the right way. Try new things. Find yourself a way through it. And I can say I had many scary times in my life and my business life, and it always went well in the end. So I hope people can take that to their heart. My last question: where is aesthetic industry in 30 or 50 years? How is the difference there? How is it different from today's perspective? Are we living in a virtual world loaded up by a cloud into a cloud? Or is longevity something which is then a big trend? Or are we still doing the same what we do today?
Okay, I am not your gal when it comes to thinking about crazy new technologies or the next thing. I've learned something about myself, which is that I am not particularly visionary. And that's okay, because I have this other zone of genius. My husband, Tim, is the visionary, and then I take actions. But what I will say is a trend that I see happening in our industry is the move towards more relationship-based treatments. So the other day, I bought a lot of stuff from a brand called Karen Millen, which is a dress brand in the UK. And the thing that prompted me to go on, and I spent like a lot of money because I'm going to Mexico soon and I want to look good. The thing that got me onto Karen Millen to buy those clothes is a lady called Lydia, who recently went viral on TikTok. And interestingly, she actually went viral for something kind of negative, but she has a brand partnership with Karen Millen where she has, a sort of sub-brand. So it's like Lydia by Karen Millen. She's created some dresses. And that is because I went and spent that money with them because of the relationship I have with her. It's a parasocial relationship. She doesn't know who the hell I am. I barely know her. But it's about humans. And I think back in the day, we would have relationships with, Coke or with, I don't know, Nike, whatever. But now we have increasingly relationships with individuals. And when you think of Tesla, you think of Elon Musk. When you think of Apple, you think of great design and everything, but you also think of Steve Jobs. He is, and I want to say to anyone listening here now, you might feel like a small business, but you are a David to the Goliath of bigger brands. Even you, Felix, who have built a bigger brand, it is infused with your essence. And that's the reason it's successful. So you are powerful, no matter how small you are, because the future is relationships.
Thank you so much. You couldn't said it better than that. Thank you so much, Miranda.
Pleasure.
It was great pleasure to have you on my show. A big thank you to Miranda for discussing with me how small business owners can overcome fears and struggles and start their route to success and improve their relationship to money. I hope you have enjoyed today's episode. Your feedback is so important to us. So please go wherever you listen to this podcast and rate us, review us, and leave some comments. For daily tips and business advice, you also can follow me on Instagram and TikTok under Dr. Felix Bertram. Thank you again for listening, and until next time.